Hey, thanks for joining me today for episode 31 of Business in the Bedroom, a bootstrapper's guide to doing it. I'm your host, producer Jemmy, providing practical advice for the newbie entrepreneur. And today I'm going to be opening up the curtain once again to my own entrepreneurial journey and share my recent keynote address. This episode is brought to you by Flintstone Media. Listen in and let's do this. I hope you had a really amazing Thanksgiving break, whether that meant being able to truly pause and rest, or taking time to make headway on your side hustle, or just being thankful you survived the family gathering. I'm so glad that you're joining me here again for another Business in the Bedroom. So I'm super thankful for you, of course, and very thankful for my wonderful son, Jordan. I'm thankful also now that he's fully vaccinated. Holy Lord. And I'm very grateful that I have such an amazing team. So just shout out to the Flintstone Media team. You guys truly amaze me and impress me every single day. And of course, I'm thankful for so much more. But if we let me loose on that topic, we'll be here all day on day. So no. Today's episode is going to be a little different. I just got done teaching both a group of students in my latest podcast launch workshop and my podcast booster class. And a couple of things I just got done telling them is, one, put your real life journey into your own show. And two, don't be afraid to have a randomly formatted episode. Well, this episode covers both. There I go, walking the walk again. And speaking of walking the walk, I also just got done saying in episode 30, the last episode, that when people see you, step up. What I meant by that is when you are asked to present at something, to step up and hit it out the park. And I shared that the Palm Beach County School District had recently asked me to deliver the opening keynote address for their virtual National Entrepreneur Day event. So I'm going to share that recording here with you. And I'm intentionally not editing that audio. So Paul gets a day off from this show. Now, in teaching podcasting specifically, rather than general business like I tend to do on this show, but in teaching specifically and talking about podcasting, I usually advocate that if you record your podcast on video and then make it available on the platforms as audio only, to be mindful of your audio only consumer when recording and then when editing. Try to explain any visual elements as you're recording, and then as you're editing, just be mindful of anything that maybe should be edited out or tweaked because it just would be awkward or confusing or hard to follow as an audio only consumer. But I'm not editing this because I want you to hear my presentation in its raw form as part of my journey. I'm putting myself out there for you to see in my full performance mode reality to experience me on that level. As the coach stepping onto the court to show the team what moves I still got, right? And how I sound at this point in my journey when I'm asked to step up. So I wanted to keep it totally real and 100 with you. So it is unedited. Now, before we get to it, I want to remind you that this show is not focused for people building a podcast-related business specifically. But I did also warn you in my launch episodes. Now go back and listen to those if you haven't yet. They're episodes 1 through 8, and they're very foundational. So I'm super glad that I have you here now, but go back and listen. But yeah, I did warn you in my early episodes that a lot of my frames of reference would be related to podcasting, as that's the business that I've built. And that's how I'm helping other people build their businesses, right? As a tool, it's podcasting. So you'll hear me trying to tackle two intentions with this keynote address. Number one, getting young entrepreneurs jazzed about the journey and the experience of building your own business by sharing my own journey. And two, giving a quick course on launching a podcast. Now, here's the funny thing. I didn't realize that I would be trying to do both literally until the pre-event meeting the week prior. Up until then, I thought the presentation that I was given 25 minutes to do was going to just be the first part, basically being a cheerleader for entrepreneurialism and sharing my story. But they made it clear during that pre-event meeting, number one, because of the title that they were proposing that I use, which you'll hear. And number two, because of literally saying that they were excited to learn about podcasting. Oh, they made it very clear that they wanted me to also cover the basics of launching a podcast. So I now had to incorporate that. So I had 25 minutes to do both of those things in one presentation with time, mind you, for Q&A. Holy crap, am I lucky that I'm a girl who likes a challenge, loves a challenge, as a matter of fact. Like, put me in, coach. So I was so excited about this. So as we turn now to that recording, listen to it less with an ear on learning about podcasting and more with an ear on, number one, how I adjusted my presentation that was just about my journey at that point to also address the material the organizers really wanted me to share with their audience, right? Listening to their pain point and figuring out how to address that in my presentation. That's number one. Number two, whether or not I actually accomplished both of those tasks. I'll let you be the judge, right? And how well I did, if I did. Number three, how I handled the Q&A. And number four, imagining the impact as you're listening to my presentation. I want you to imagine the impact on my positioning as a professional, as a podcast producer, the impact on my authority in this space as an entrepreneur, as someone who can teach other people how to use podcasts to build their business, the impact on my brand exposure for Flintstone Media, the impact on my networking because the audience was full of small business owners and small business owner wannabes, right? Like, think about all of those things. And that's why I'm such a proponent of getting out there and getting involved and participating in stuff. And if you are a podcaster, also listen to this with the idea in mind of embracing doing episodes every now and then that are outside of your normal format. And as a testament to my recent launch workshop and booster class students, by the way, there will be links to both of those in the show notes if podcasting is on your radar or something you're already doing. You can take those classes. But as a testament to them, my recent students, and to you as my awesome listener, here I am walking the walk. Now, if you would prefer to watch this presentation, you can cut out of this podcast episode now, and I've links in the show notes to the presentation video. So you can choose to watch it on either Facebook or YouTube, and those links are in the show notes. But whether you continue with me here on the podcast or you switch to watching it on video, I am also including a link in the show notes to the PDF of my presentation slides. You can download those, keep those, whatever you'd like to do. You're welcome to those as well. Alrighty. Now, here is my keynote address for National Entrepreneurs Day. Thank you again for such an amazing honor, School District of Palm Beach County. Thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting and a total honor to be here. So thank you so very, very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so you guys can see my presentation. But thank you so much to the Palm Beach County School District. First of all, my son is a student in fourth grade. So thank you on many levels for that. But also thank you so much for having me. And this is going to be a really fun day. Since today is National Entrepreneur Day, I want anybody and everybody who is here as a participant, here as an attendee, to pat yourselves on the back for having the entrepreneurial spirit. If you have dreams of becoming an entrepreneur, it's a fantastic ride. It's not easy. It's not all roads are paved with gold, but you can get there. So if anybody is a testament to that, it was this woman who started a business about something that nobody knew about while I was a single mom, and I made it. So you can too. So here we go. Let's talk about this a little bit and how I got where I am. So we're going to do a little introduction quickly of me and my business, and then we're going to get into some podcasting basics, show structure and development, and recording and equipment options. And also, most importantly, which I think is going to be what really resonates with everybody, is integrating a podcast into your business and your content offerings. And if a podcast doesn't necessarily land with you, then listen to my presentation with the mindset of a blog or a YouTube channel, and it's about the same. So here we go. So a little bit of an introduction into who I am. So I am all these things, but the number one, most important one is the second picture there. I'm a mommy, and that is the son that is in the Palm Beach County School District. His name is Jordan, and he's the love of my life. Moving on. So Flintstone Media, let's see. I started podcasting in 2014. Now, like I mentioned, no one really knew what a podcast was. I had just discovered them myself. And I started a show called Curve the Cube. I wanted to interview people about how they figured out what they loved and were passionate about, but then how they then figured out how to do that for a living, which is what entrepreneurs really want to do, right? So that's what I did. And I decided to do it as a podcast because I didn't want to hold on to the answers just for myself. I wanted the whole benefit for all of those answers to go out to whomever it needed to listen to it. So it was a podcast. But why did I do that? I did that because I had been 15 years as a data analyst. That picture on the screen pretty much represents how I felt after 15 years. I just wasn't feeling it anymore, okay? Now, at the same time, my radio show, my favorite morning show, which got me through days like that, my favorite morning radio show was being dismantled and then eventually taken off the air. So, because I wanted my morning cup of coffee, as I called them, I wanted them back. So I started this digital campaign, a social media campaign to bring them back, to gin up interest, to rally up the fans. And it worked. It worked. It got national attention. Elvis Duran from New York was chiming in. I got on the news. I got on radio shows. It was an incredible experience. And I had no idea I was going to be good at it. I had no clue until I started it. But that inspired me to build a business based on digital marketing and podcasting because I had no idea that this was something I was really good at. It was something I'd be passionate about. And also because of being involved and talking, so many discussions behind the scenes with the radio show, I realized I wanted to do that too. But I didn't think I'd actually get into radio, but podcasting sounded good. So I tried that. So I wanted to do a business on podcasting, but the funny thing about 2014 is most of the conversations after I said, I want to do a business about podcasting, the answer was, what's a podcast? Not really a good way to start a business when most people have no idea what you're even talking about. So anyways, I digress. So I started instead Flintstone Media, that is the old logo. I started Flintstone Media as a digital marketing services. I kind of parlayed what I had learned, building this campaign, successful campaign, and that's how I started the business. So originally it was building websites, doing social media, public relations, digital public relations, all those kind of things. And that was kind of the sweet spot because it was pretty much low-hanging fruit. Right? Everybody needs a website. So many people need social media. So I knew if I could really hone in on those skills, I could build enough of a business to make ends meet while I was trying to build the podcasting side. And I was really lucky that I happened to come upon a wonderful human here local to Palm Beach named Jeremy Pound, a local entrepreneur. And he took me under his wing as an employee, but I got to learn a lot about website building, SEO, social media, all those things. So he really helped me beef up those skills so I could actually make a side business out of it and have it start to grow. So as I was growing the digital marketing side, I still was trying to make inroads into the podcasting side. And actually, Jeremy became my first podcasting customer. That's his show down at the bottom, New Customer Machine. That was old show. And then I started slowly building bricks of new clients. So you can see this is a smattering of them, wonderful shows I had the opportunity to work on. But the one that was a game changer was I went to a conference, Podfest Multimedia Expo, met Glenn the Geek from Horse Radio Network, the largest independent podcast network in in at least the United States, maybe the world, has 20 shows all about horses. Completely bananas, right? But I got to learn a lot. And so I learned the business side of podcasting, which was my next level up. So now, over the years, I've now built Flintstone Media. It is a full suite production house. I've learned everything I can about podcasting, all the bits, all the parts. So show development and launch, recording sessions, editing and production, publishing and distribution, podcast marketing. I now teach podcast workshops and classes. And it's also business development and coaching. That's actually my sweet spot, is finding people who want to start a podcast, either because they have dreams of becoming successful podcasters or using podcasts as a toolkit for their business growth. So this is kind of where I'm at now. I am the founder and chief enthusiasm officer and executive producer and host of the Florida Podcast Network, which is what this is back here. I'm also the host and producer of the Podfest podcast. So that convention I mentioned that I went to, my very first podcast conference, was Podfest. And now through that relationship building, I now co-host their show, which is a huge honor. And I have a few other shows as well. And I'm still working with Horse Radio Network. I helped launch the Wedding Biz Network, and I've worked with independent clients, and I was actually the first ever podcast instructor at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. So my story is just layer upon layer of little bricks and learning as you go. Here's the key. When you find something you want to build a business about, you never stop learning. Okay? Key number one. This is the second key that I learned, and it was huge. And I learned this mostly from Jeremy Pound, but then when I was working at Horse Radio Network and seeing how they were community building and bringing in sponsors and building their business, I realized, holy cannoli, content creation really is such an incredible lead magnet. And so again, whether you're talking about podcasting is something you do, or it's a blog on your website, or you have a YouTube channel, ginning up as much content about yourself and about your business is what is really going to attract people to your business. At this point, I've been doing this so long and so effectively. I just had a friend in Canada, of all places, do a little test for me. He Googled 2 words, Florida and podcasting, and the entire first page was all my stuff. It works. So build your portfolio as you're going. If you are doing work for yourself on your own project, let's say you're building a business as a designer, as a fashion designer, right? Anytime you come up with a really great outfit, even if it's for yourself, take a picture. Start building that portfolio. As you start working with people, start collecting testimonials for all the wonderful things that you've done, and you will see this growth start to happen incrementally. But also, it's great to have a podcast. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So that's podcasting basics. So what is podcasting? Thankfully, I don't get asked this question very often anymore, so I'm going to breeze through this really quick. But essentially, you record some audio, you upload it to the internet, it gets distributed to the podcast players, and then happy humans get to listen to it. It's like magic. And I have done all kinds of podcasting over the years, and I can just tell you, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So podcasting by the numbers as a business adventure, if you are considering doing this as part of your overall business strategy, it actually is the fastest growing media in the world today, because people can listen to podcasting while they're doing other things. It's very passive consumption. You can be listening while working out, while cooking, while cleaning, while whatever, right? While your husband is watching something stupid on the television, you can be listening to a podcast. And a recent Edison Research podcast consumer study, and this is where the real gold comes as far as the opportunity. Over 90 million people download podcasts on a regular basis. It is growing like gangbusters. And the people who are attracted to listening to podcasters, 41% of them have an annual income of at least $75,000. Why is that important? It is important because of the next figure. 60% of podcast listeners have bought something from a podcast ad. That means that there are a lot of opportunities, whether you are incorporating selling your own services and products, or you're pitching your book, or whatever it is, or you're looking to provide your show as a platform for potential sponsors. Those numbers are amazing. amazing to share. So let's talk about some very basics. First of all, there's the theme. Obviously, super easy. What do you want the show to be about? Well, you definitely want your show to be about whatever topic you're seriously passionate about. And oftentimes, if you are incorporating into your business, then it is part of your business. So as an example, I have a new client. They just are rolling out their show, and they are property managers. And so what they're talking about is on their show is what it feels like to be someone who did not anticipate owning an extra property. Maybe they got it through an estate, distribution or something like that. And now they all of a sudden have a property they have to manage. Well, what the heck do you do? So they're doing a show as property managers called The Accidental Landlord, because they know that's going to attract the right people who can be their potential customers. It's never about a direct infomercial for your show, for your business. It's always about just providing value that's going to attract the right people who then can potentially be customers. Another wonderful thing about podcasting is because it is such an intimate medium, it affords you the opportunity to really form a sense of trust with that potential customer well before you've even had a chance to get them on the phone. So there are a lot of great benefits to podcasting. But then you also want to think about what your goals are. Is it to build your business? Is it to sell your services? Is it to, what is it you're aiming for? Is it to position yourself as an expert on a thing, right? All of those. But then you're going to flip it around. This is what I call my mirror exercise when I'm working with clients. I have them face the mirror to themselves and ask what they want the show to do for themselves. Then I ask them to turn the virtual mirror around. What is the mission of the show? That mirror is facing now towards your audience. What do you want them to learn? What do you want them to gain? You're delivering a promise with each episode. And, you can say, I want to blank, so blank. In my case, I have one show called Business in the Bedroom. It's not that kind of business in the bedroom. It's about side hustles, building. This is literally how I built my business, was after hours and on weekends from my bedroom. So I have a show called Business in the Bedroom. So if I were to define my mission, I would say my mission is to share practical advice for newbie entrepreneurs so they don't make any of the same mistakes that I did and they can level up even faster than I did. So that's kind of how you want to encapsulate your mission. All right. And last but not least, you want to think about the tone of your show. And that's going to be a sweet spot between your natural personality and then the subject matter. Okay. So some subject matters need to be a little more serious. Some are very light. And you're just going to have to make that assessment on your own. And then you're going to want to put all those nebulous ideas together and really figure out what is a really strong format for your show. A lot of shows are interview shows. A lot of shows are monologue shows, but you can have a mixed bag. You can have a show that has multiple segments. You can have shows that have, that provide updates. Sometimes especially because a lot of my clients happen to be business owners who are using it as a lead generator, a lot of what they'll do is they'll have either they'll monologue on some good information or they'll have a guest interview, but then at the end, they'll come back around and give like a takeaway. So there's an extra segment they stick at the end as a takeaway. So a lot of different ways to play with segments. And then once you have your segments, there's also lots of different ways to deliver those. They can be instructive. They can be descriptive, informative. You can share the story of your guest or of someone in their life. You can share your own story, which I'm going to get to a little bit more about that and how important that is in just a moment. And you could be exploring a topic. What do you think about this coming down the line? Where does cryptocurrency going? I know nothing about cryptocurrency. Where's cryptocurrency going, right? That could be an exploratory topic. And I also want to do a quick note on release schedules. I can't talk about podcasting without saying you do not have to start off with a weekly show. That sometimes can be overwhelming, especially if you're not used to creating content. I typically would say every other week or twice monthly. Moving on. So recording and equipment options, really fast. We're going to breeze through these because there are a lot of different ways to record. I've done it all. There's stationary and in-studio recording, which is just what you see here. That is me and one of my favorite co-hosts, Glenn the Geek. That's the guy who owns Horse Radio Network. And there we are together with our microphones, stationary in-studio. The second option is remote recording. So you are in one place, your co-host, your guests, everybody else is elsewhere. I have this one show I work on where one co-host is sometimes she's in Kentucky, sometimes she's in Florida. The other co-host is usually in Canada, and then the other co-host is in Germany. That's remote recording. And then the final option is mobile recording. And that's where you basically take your show on the road. And that can be one of the most fun times ever. I had a travel adventure show. This is just to illustrate that there are no rules with podcasting. You can do anything. I had a travel adventure show where my co-host Glenn and I would go all over Florida and do ridiculous things. And we would meet up with listeners and form as an extra way to cultivate our community. And so this is us in the Orlando Eye, because we met up with a bunch of listeners in Orlando, and they came on the adventure with us. So you can do it. You can do a lot of different things with your podcasting. And this slide is really key. This slide illustrates a couple of key points. Number one, again, mobile podcasting is fun. That's just another shot of us on the road. But more to the point, when you go to conferences, and this is something I'm going to harp on, whether you're a podcaster, building your business, no matter what it is, this is my absolute number one business growth strategy for any business. Ready? Going to conferences. Why? Because when you go to conferences, you have the ability to find support within your industry, but you also have, and to network, you have the ability to just meet all kinds of people and just become known in that industry and really, really learn a lot. And you never know what's going to come from it. We went to the Miami Boat Show. Because of that, we met Freedom Boat Club, who had a new sister brand called Freedom RVing that they wanted exposure for. So they gave us an RV for an entire weekend, and we drove down the west coast of Florida and made a whole adventure out of it for free. That was 2 vacations for the show for free. So all I'm saying is, no matter what your business is, look for little opportunities to do things for free. But this is another reason. There's actually a third lesson in this slide. The third lesson is this. One of the keys, and this is swinging back to podcasting, but also your business in general, is to get other people to start talking about you. So there are some clips in here. You can see a couple of pictures of us being and our shows being featured in newspapers throughout Florida. So local media wants to hear about you and what you're doing for local business and the local community. So get out there and get yourself known. So then when you're recording, you can have a handheld device you take along with you. If you're stationary, you can record using your computer program. I actually just finally got a fancy schmancy mixer, so I got that. It's in my toolkit arsenal now. But you can also just record on something you probably already have in your pocket or sitting right on your desk, your own phone. Phones are great. Their microphones have improved so much. They're a great way for an entry podcaster to get in with a little bit less of a budget. You also want to make sure that you have an external microphone. Now, your microphone, there are 2 different kinds. The ones that plug directly into your computer are USB. The ones that plug into a mixer are XLR. So if you're looking for a microphone, you want to make sure you get one that has a USB cable. And also look for the word dynamic, not condenser, dynamic, because you have a dynamic voice that needs to be shared. That's how you're going to remember it. Dynamic USB. Then editing software. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as digital audio workshop or workstation, but it's just your editing software. So those are the other things you're going to need. But then integrating your podcast or your YouTube channel or your blog into your business offerings is what we're going to talk about next. So you want to personalize it. Whatever you're doing, you want to personalize your content. You want people to be able to fall in love with you. So people come for the content, but they stay for the host. So if they go through their podcast player and they find 3 shows about building a business from the ground up, they might listen to all 3, but there's going to be something about you that they're going to connect with and come back to your show over and over again. So give them you. So include yourself and your story in your show structure. So people, like I said, people come for the content or they stay for the host, but this is true no matter what you're talking about. And so ultimately by doing that, you're able to share more of you. That picture that showed me with my co-host in the Orlando Eye, those people showed up not because we have a show about travel. They showed up because they loved Glenn and I, because we put ourselves so much into that show. So getting on that note, building your audience. in real life, you want to go where your audience is. There can be meetups, there can be social events around the topic of your show. Meetup.com is a fantastic place to find where people are gathering who are interested in something your show might be about. And then get listeners involved in the show. They can submit things, they can be guests, they can join as guest co-hosts, all that kind of stuff. And in your business, you want to create topics around the elements of your business that you're most passionate about. So, for example, you just heard me harp on how powerful going to conferences is. The last episode of Business in the Bedroom was all about that. Okay, I'm super passionate about that. So I made a whole episode about that. And you also want to incorporate your clients, your partners, your staff. I name drop people who are involved with me, who have helped me, who are part of my business world all the time. So, and also integrate your podcast into your company events. I'll highlight one example of one of my own clients. So Straight Up Chicago Investor, they are located in Chicago, and they just had their 100th episode. They recorded it. In order to celebrate it, they recorded it as a live event, and 160 people showed up. That's huge. So that's one other thing. And also, you also want to get out there. So again, conferences, meetups, events, and create a strategy every time you're going to go. You want to know who's going to be there, who's speaking, what are the topic points, what's the schedule like, what sessions do you really want to go to, all of that. But the opportunity, circling back to podcasting specifically, is you could apply as a speaker. You can go with your microphones. You can interview people, whether you have media passes or not, but you can become known as the podcaster of that industry. Glenn and I became known as the podcasters of Florida's travel industry, as an example. So you want to also grow your audience online. So you want to make sure that you're posting your content to your website. Remember that slide a little while ago with the big old magnet and a whole bunch of people attached to it? That's how that happens. You're posting your stuff on your website that generates really, really strong SEO, which is search engine optimization. That means that when someone types up something around your topic and those Google search results come up, you want yours to be first. As I mentioned, a lot of my stuff comes up right away because of this. I constantly am posting updates to my website. So share episodes, share milestones, and establishing also like a Facebook group or some other community online can be also really, really strong. But you also, when it comes to sharing on social media, you want to be on platforms you're already comfortable with. No need to learn a whole bunch of stuff new. You're already learning podcasting, but also being on platforms where your listeners are on. And we're going to breeze through this last slide real quick so I can have a little bit of time for Q&A. And maximizing your return once you have this podcast established is bringing everybody together. So sponsors, pitch them using your media kit. Listeners, bring them on as content contributors, to do product reviews, give feedback, to share thoughts and materials, to share thoughts about your show and stuff like that. You can also have your partners, so your sponsors can be content contributors on your show. They can give product reviews. They can be your media partners. They can have sponsored segment contributors. So as an example, if you have a business this is super top of mind, on property and a realtor, you can have someone who understands real estate law come in maybe once a month onto your show and just give a quick tip, 5 minutes, that kind of a thing. So maximizing your return, expanding the value of your show, expanding those who are involved, expanding your community around it. That's it. I am all set, guys. I hope you guys have seen not just how podcasting has helped and understood how I utilized it in building my business. And now I'm utilizing it to help other people build their businesses. But in general, no matter what your entrepreneurial endeavor is, you can make it, you can get there even faster by putting yourself out there, your content, joining conferences, all that jazz. So thank you so much, Palm Beach County School District, once again, for all your hard work. What a wonderful day we're going to have, and happy National Entrepreneurs Day. I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Jemmy. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I can start my own podcast now. I feel inspired from that. So at this time, I'm sure some of you have questions. I know you've been messaging me a little bit in the chat box. You can either put your question in the chat box and we will read it out, or if you'd like to just unmute yourself and speak right into the microphone and ask your question, you can do either or. And I'm already seeing a lot of positive feedback in the chat box. Thank you so much for all your wealth of knowledge and inspiration for everybody on the call. At this time, does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I have a compliment. Well done. Job well done. I learned a lot. I feel so bad that I was late now.
Well, you know what, Marie? My email address I saw has been added to the chat. Just reach out, girlfriend. I got you.
Okay. Thank you so much again.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do.
Great. And I had added her email address into the link, and we will add it again so you can reach out to her and contact her. Oh, she has it on the screen.
Oh, that's right.
Jamie. Hey, she's a step ahead of us. Look at that. And her website and her social media. And
Thank you.
Connect with her further.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. This has been a wonderful time.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? And everyone is just putting so much positivity and great comments in the chat box. So thank you for that.
I see Leslie has
Jenny,
unmuted. I'm not sure. Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Hi, Jenny. It's Leslie. And I really enjoyed all of the information you provided. You touched on it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about like what inspired you or how you got your inspiration for all of your content? Because, it seems to me, like you said, that is so important to provide your listeners with content and, what's in it for them. So how did you do that?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. And I'm trying to think of the best example. I think the best example is going to be twofold. So my very first show, Curve the Cube, I just had a singular question and I was ridiculously curious about it. I wanted to find out from all these different people through various professions and walks of life, how they discovered what they were passionate about and how they made that what they wanted to do for a living. So what I did was I just was inspired to keep finding those people, and finding them gave me my inspiration. And I would just come up with all kinds of questions. And so that was how that one worked. But it's very different now with my current solo show, Business in the Bedroom, because now it's me. It's just a solo show. And I'm giving advice on everything that I've learned to get myself here. So what I did when I was first starting that show, and it was just a brainchild, I'm like, I'm going to sit down, just give myself 10 minutes and just brainstorm and see what I really have to say, how many different topics I can talk about. And my pen wouldn't stop. And in 10 minutes, I had, I think, 60 things written down. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it. So that list has become a living list. And so I've kept adding to it as things have come up in my own day. And so, for example, this last episode being about joining conferences, which is something I can't believe wasn't on my initial list because I've always been a believer in that, but it was inspired having just been to PodFest last week. And so that's where that came from. So being very present, always staying curious. And then at the beginning of the process, just brainstorming the heck out of what you want to talk about. That's I think, really key.
Hi, everyone. This is Dickie. The presentation was just so awesome. I mean, I could not stop smiling from ear to ear.
Oh,
so thank you for all of your knowledge and your enthusiasm and your passion. But Leslie, I would say that everyone listening who wants to start a podcast, you probably should bring your team together and do some type of mind mapping. Mind mapping is awesome because you throw everything on your whiteboard. What do you want to get out of it as a company? And what do you want your target demographic to achieve? What do you want them to know? What value proposition are you bringing to them? So, put your team in the conference room and do some mind mapping and then extrapolate from there how you're going to start.
Yeah, I do that with my clients, that exact kind of thing. We do the whole first session is just me asking a whole bunch of questions and getting their brains going. And it's a lot of fun. I also do that with my workshops. I had my first workshop this last Saturday, and the ladies afterwards, I asked them, I said, so do you feel like your idea is a lot more clear than when we started? They're like, oh my gosh, yes.
And it was exactly that. It was because of that mind mapping and brainstorming. Perfect. Thank you so much for that ad, Nikki. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, my team that's on the line, I think you know that our next meeting, our team meeting probably is going to be mind mapping. So yeah, look forward to that. Thank you so much, Jamie, for everything. And just, I'm getting so many messages on how informative and what a great presentation you did. Everyone is just loving it. So thank you so much for being here. And I know you're going to participate in the hot seat coming up at 11. So if you want more, Jemmy, don't go anywhere because she's going to be back on at 11. And at this time, just if everyone can just give her a round of applause. And if you feel comfortable using the Zoom emojis, you can do that, or you can just clap into the screen just to give her some more love for being here this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. And I'd especially love to hear your feedback on this episode in particular. I'd love to hear your thoughts on incorporating public speaking into your business growth strategy, on if you celebrated National Entrepreneurs Day on November 16th. I want to hear how. I also would love feedback on what did you think of my presentation? Did I hit those goals of jazzing up the audience of fresh entrepreneurs and teaching how to launch a podcast and handling Q&A all in 25 minutes? So yeah, I'd love your feedback on this episode, especially if you're on Good Pods. That's probably the easiest way to do it because you can share your review with me and everyone right after listening to it. So you can follow me there as Producer Jemmy, spelled Jaime, and I'll see it right away. But if you're not on Good Pods, please feel free to message me, and you can find my email address and all my social media links in the show notes, or by going to businessinthebedroom.com. That's businessinthebedroom.com. And remember, hit it hard. Keep the lights on.